Hello everyone from the WNEP Digital Studio. I'm Jon Meyer, back here with another update on what's going on with the coronavirus vaccine and coronavirus itself here in Pennsylvania. We're going to be looking at a lot of numbers and, hold on, it's going the wrong way on me already. We're going to be looking at a lot of numbers on the situation with coronavirus and the vaccine here in the state right now. And I've said it before, I do these live breakdowns because personally, when I go through all these numbers, I find it helpful when I have a full understanding of what's going on. It was a year ago tomorrow when we found out about the first 2 cases in Pennsylvania. One of them was in Wayne County. We've come a long way since then. But we are what seems to be coming out of the dark tunnel of coronavirus, and let's hope that the promising signs we're seeing continue. So let's take a look at some of the numbers with what we're seeing right now when it comes to the vaccine. We'll start with that right now. So here are the numbers we got today from the Department of Health. So far here in Pennsylvania, there have been 2.7 million shots given. Those are the shots that have gone in people's arms. So 1.9 million Pennsylvanians have now had the first shot of the COVID vaccine. That is getting to be around 14% of the Pennsylvania population that has had at least one dose. A lot of you probably know somebody or yourself who have now had the first dose. It is gaining. Even though there's so many frustrations in trying to find a vaccine appointment, quite a few people have now had the first dose. Of that 1.9 million that have had the first dose, 868,000 have now had the second shot and are fully vaccinated. These numbers only include the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. Johnson & Johnson is now here in Pennsylvania, as you heard the governor say this week. Those are going only to educators, teachers, school staff, childcare. They're going to be getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. As we update this number, we'll start to put that Johnson & Johnson stat in here too, so we can keep track on how many people are getting that. So when we look at the vaccinations so far, here is the percent of the population in our viewing area that has had at least one dose of the vaccine so far. I know it's a little hard to see on the live videos through YouTube and Facebook, but this says 18% and up. That's the counties you see in the greenish yellow that's probably glowing on your screen right now. Those are the counties that have done the best with the vaccination process so far. Again, 18% or more of the population in those counties have now had the first dose of the coronavirus. The blue counties you see, 10% to 17% of their populations have had that first dose. Monroe County is lagging behind our viewing area at only 9% of the population that's had the first dose. And in fact, Monroe County is at almost the bottom in Pennsylvania when it comes to who has had the vaccine and the percentage of people that have had the vaccine. It is, I think I saw this morning, 63 or 64 out of 67 counties in Pennsylvania is where Monroe County ranks, lagging significantly behind our viewing area and the rest of the state. What I want to show you from that is, so you saw those counties in the green. Here's breaking it down a little bit further of which counties are doing the best and their percentage. So I said this is going to be a lot of numbers, and numbers can be boring or they can be very interesting. So I'm going to try my best to make this very interesting, or at least a little interesting. So this is showing the counties ranked by the percentage of the population with at least one shot. And what we have here, Montour County, Geisinger, Danville's, and Montour, it's the best in the state right now. 36% of the population in Montour County has had at least the first dose. 20-some percent, I think it was 23% of Montour County has had both doses and are now fully vaccinated. So I'm just going to check real quick my phone because that's how I get notified if there's a problem. And there's not. So I don't mean to interrupt with a thing, but I'm doing all this on myself in the digital studio, and so people text me if they can't hear my audio. If you tuned in a couple weeks ago, I did this whole thing without a microphone. So I got to check my phone just in case someone texts me about a problem. I can't read your comments, by the way, now, but I will read them later. So if you have anything to interject as I go along, put it in there in the comments, and I'll check them out later. So Montour County, 36%. Lackawanna, one of the best in the state. 22% of Lackawanna County's population has had at least one shot. Sullivan County, one of the smallest counties in the state, but 22% of the population has had it there. Columbia's at 20%, Luzerne, 19%. These counties are all up near the best in the state. Northumberland at 18%, Schuylkill 16%, along with Union and Wayne. And you can see the numbers of the number of people who are vaccinated. So again, this is the percent of the population. So Luzerne County has 60,000 people who have had at least one dose. That's only 19% because Luzerne County has 320,000 people of the population. Sullivan County's had 1,200 vaccinations. Its population's only, I think, 4,000 or 5,000. So that's how you can see the difference. But of course, the percentage is the fair way to compare it because that's the percentage of the population. That really shows you how those counties are doing in getting their people the shot. And of course, it's not the counties themselves that are doing the work. It's the whole process and how it's working in those counties. I just want to go back to this real quick. The Philadelphia counties have been, the suburbs and stuff have been lagging behind a bit. And you can tell that the Philadelphia area is getting frustrated by that and asking for more vaccine. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any changes, but our viewing area has been doing better. Now, our counties in our area are older than the Philadelphia suburbs, and the state has said it's distributing the vaccine based on the characteristics of each county. I posted earlier today, just was curious how people are doing with the vaccine, if they're having any side effects, because we're hearing those range all over the place. Some people don't have any side effect at all. Other people are having a rough day afterwards. So you can also share those comments. One, how you found a vaccine. Two, how you felt after you got it. All that's helpful to give us a really good idea of what's going on out there. So feel free to leave some of that information in the comments as we go along. Now I want to move from the vaccine to COVID itself. And let's take a look at the trends week to week here in Pennsylvania. We have been seeing Pennsylvania decline significantly since January. There's a little bit of a difference this weekend or this week that I want to get into because new cases this week are only 19 fewer than what we saw last week. What we've been seeing is cases that are thousands fewer each week. So the decline has definitely slowed this week, but it is going down still. That's what we all want to see. Incidence rate, that's the number of people who tested positive and have the virus out of 100,000 people. That's at 103. Positivity rate, down from 6.2% to 5.7%. That's the percent of people who last week went and got a test and had a positive result. So down to 5.7%. We keep getting told by healthcare experts 5% is the magic number that you want to be below with a positivity rate, and we are getting close to that here in Pennsylvania. So that is a big number to keep an eye on because that's kind of tracking the rate of community spread that's out there, and we're now getting close to 5.7%. Pennsylvania was up near 20% at the peak, so big difference when we see that. And hospitalizations, that's a real important thing to track. They keep dropping. 302 fewer patients in hospitals this week compared to last week with COVID. We'll take that, that's for sure. Here's the new cases in Pennsylvania, and you can see the spike we had in December, a little bit of spike after New Year's. And I want to show you here, I'm going to back up a little bit out of the way, but this is the decline, the 14-day average. So looking at new cases, we're adding over 14 weeks because that really helps us see the trends that we're having. And it is declining. That decline has slowed a little bit. You can see that the slope has kind of leveled off a little. So what we're going to watch over the next couple weeks, or next week really, is kind of see, is that just leveling off and we're going to be adding cases at that level for a little while? Is it just a slow little pause before we drop down again? We'll see what happens there. We're still at a level similar to what we saw back in October. So things are getting a lot better, but as you know, you're hearing it in your communities, there is still COVID out there. You're still probably hearing of people that are testing positive. But if you're like me, back here when we were in the peak, I was hearing about quite a few people that I knew that were getting it. I haven't heard that recently, so I'm guessing a lot of you are the same, that you're noticing just in your surroundings the difference with the number of people testing positive and not. So that is a big change, and it's definitely positive that we're seeing things come down. That we're going backwards there. So let's go. Here's the new cases today here in our viewing area. And I put this up, not necessarily, I'm not going to go through every single number, but I just want to point out that we've been seeing this kind of map now for the past couple weeks. And these numbers are way lower than what we were seeing for a while now. We saw Luzerne County, for example, we saw it above 100 for months. Lackawanna, same thing. And you're seeing a lot of single digits on here, 6, 2, 0 in Sullivan again, 0 in Union, 5 in Montour. So it's just promising to see that every day we're adding numbers at a much lower level than what we were doing a month or two ago. Here's our viewing area tracking that, similar to the state, a bump back in December, a bump in January. It's declining. Again, you see it's starting to level off a little bit. It's understandable that the decline is going to slow some at some point. We'll see how long that lasts, and if it starts to go back down again, we'll keep an eye on that. Here's what I said, hospitalizations. Why is hospitalization so important? Well, that's one way you can really know how sick people are getting. So we saw quite a spike here in mid-December where it was up to 6,300 was our peak number of people with COVID in hospitals all across Pennsylvania. We are now down to 1,600, so that is a significant drop than what we saw back then. And so that continues to go down. It too has slowed a little bit in the past week, but we now are back below the peak we saw in the spring, which is also promising to see as those hospitalizations drop down. Here's the counties in our area, the number of COVID patients right now, according to the Department of Health, who are in hospitals around our area. This is a huge difference too from 2 months ago. Luzerne County at 33, it was up near 200 back in January. Montour County, where Geisinger Danville is, that was up near 200. Monroe County's at 25, Lackawanna 23, Bradford 19, Schuylkill 17, Lycoming 14, Union 7, Northumberland 5, Carbon 4. These are the counties with the most COVID patients in hospitals right now. So when you just think about it, obviously there's a group of people that have coronavirus in each county, and this is the number of people that are hospitalized. This is a small amount when you think of the size of the county's populations, and it's only 2% or less of active cases of coronavirus in the hospital right now. And I've stressed this for the last year, but it's important to remember that while some people get really sick and end up in the hospital, the vast majority of people are able to treat coronavirus at home. This is the positivity rate. We said the state is now down near 5%. More and more counties in our area are starting to get near that too. It is interesting, the two counties with the least percent of vaccinations are the two counties in our area with the highest percent of positivity rate. Again, the rate of people testing positive over the last week. Pike at 12, Monroe's almost at 10. You see here Wyoming, Columbia in the 9% range, Clinton and Wayne in the 8%, Montour, Bradford, Lycoming in the 7% range, Schuylkill almost at 7%. Everyone else is below that. Quite a few counties are starting to be at that 5% level. We have a few that are below that. Union County is at 1.9%. We haven't seen a number like that since back in the summer. So that positivity rates, they keep coming down. And again, 5% is what we keep being told from health experts. That's kind of a magic number that we want to see everyone get below, showing that the spread of the virus has slowed significantly below a concerning level. COVID-19 deaths, these are the latest numbers on that. Promising signs with this too. We are now down, you can see how we have declined since the peak right around the holidays with the number of people that were dying with COVID. And we're now down, it always is going to go down at the end because it takes a few days for the results to be posted and the records to catch up. But what we see here is that the decline has been happening. And when I update the death records now, because this is the date people died. So when I update the death records now, I'm only going back maybe a week and putting that in. So this decline you're seeing is real. And so this is obviously what we want to see the most. Fewer and fewer people passing away with COVID. I say with COVID because there's a lot of people that will say, well, coronavirus is one of the factors involved in a death, and yes, it is. So some people are dying of coronavirus. Other people have a lot of other medical issues. This is one of them. But these are the stats from the Pennsylvania Department of Health tracking the deaths here in Pennsylvania. So big promising sign that we see on that. I thought I'd pull this up because where is Pennsylvania in the whole scheme of things when it comes to coronavirus nationwide? And of course, one of the ways to keep an eye on that is with the number of deaths, because that is telling us the severity of coronavirus in each state. So this is in total of the whole pandemic. The deaths per 100,000 people. So we're looking at the death rate in each state across the country. The top 5 in the country for the death rate are New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Mississippi. And New York State still's, one of the ones that stands out, New York and New Jersey with the highest. Pennsylvania comes in at 12 with 190 people per 100,000 that have died. So that is about a little less than 2% that Pennsylvania fits in there. I put up Texas and Florida just because you hear them a lot in the national news. Texas this week removed the mask mandate, opened up businesses 100%. Texas is 24 out of all the states. Florida has been in the national news a lot because they have been more liberal or loose. I shouldn't use the word liberal there. They've been more loose with their restrictions. They are at 26, so right in the middle when it comes to numbers. And it is interesting to note, Florida is one of the oldest states in the country, and yet it's not near the top when it comes to coronavirus deaths. So I thought you'd find this interesting to just see where Pennsylvania fits and where some of the states you hear a lot about in the news are compared to some of the other states here, especially in the Northeast. Now, Mississippi is another one that dropped its mask mandate and restrictions this week, and it is up near the top. So you see a big difference when it comes to how states have handled it and the impact. Let's go through some of the counties now and just look at how the numbers are in each county and how things are trending. And I'll tell you, most of them are all trending down. Luzerne County had its peak and it's been going down. We're seeing Luzerne County level off a little bit like we were seeing in the state. But I got to note, Luzerne County is leveling off, averaging around 60 cases a day right now. It was averaging up near 300 cases a day back in December. Huge difference for Luzerne County, big improvement. Lackawanna the same, leveling off a little, but leveling off at 50 cases a day as compared to near 150 cases a day back in the peak. Lycoming County peaked at around 150. It's now adding around 35 cases a day, so big drop for Lycoming County. Schuylkill County, same thing. It was averaging around 150 cases a day. Schuylkill County now is averaging less than 20. So a huge improvement in Schuylkill County, one of the counties that was hit pretty hard back in the fall and December that is now adding very little compared to that. Monroe County, I said, one county with the smallest amount of vaccinations for its population, a county that is seeing a high positivity rate and a little bit of tick up in cases this week too. So we're keeping an eye on Monroe County. It was averaging around 100, now it's averaging in the 40 range with new cases. Northumberland County, it was in the 80 range that it was averaging back at the peak. Now it is down below 20. It has had a bunch of single-digit cases just in the past couple weeks, or past week. Union County, same thing. It had a few bumps, but it has been declining and taking a pretty big nosedive this week after a few days with 0 cases in Union County, so promising signs there. Bradford County, little bit of a tick up the past week, but Bradford County's had quite a few days too that it's adding single-digit cases after it was averaging up close to 50. So big improvements in Bradford County too. And when you look at the other counties, these are the counties that are hardest hit by coronavirus, so I made the graphs for them. A lot of the other counties are the same story, that have been trending down significantly, little upticks here and there, but overall a promising sign. And I bring it up, we're still not down to anywhere. We're back down to where we were last summer. So the coronavirus is still out there. Obviously, there's still concerns about it, but we like seeing things improving the way they are. Columbia County, I think I just did Columbia County, but again, it is declining, as are the other counties. Here's something that I just thought was interesting. The state put out some data on this yesterday, so I went digging a little bit deeper into it. The state said that so far in the flu season here in Pennsylvania, there have been 2,800 positive tests for the influenza. So I went back to look at last year, and through last week, the last date on record, so through last week, we were up to 101,000 cases of the flu in Pennsylvania. This year, we're up to 2,800. Last year's season in total, it starts in September and goes until April or May, 131,000 cases of the flu, and this year we're only at 2,800. So obviously big difference with the flu. It kind of makes sense though, where with all the precautions people are taking for coronavirus, the flu spreads this in a similar way. So big difference that we're seeing there. So that's pretty much the wrap up of everything that I have here for the situation that's going on around Pennsylvania today. We heard this week that the governor is going to make all the Johnson & Johnson vaccines go to those in education. That's going to be about 124,000 new doses of vaccine in the state that's going to go to teachers, school staff, daycare workers, and people like that. Also this week, the state was allocated 450,000 doses of the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine that we're seeing breakdown in this. So those aren't all added to this yet. That's the most the state has gotten, nearly 500,000 doses this week. If we keep getting that kind of amount every week, it's going to boost these numbers significantly as we go through. And hopefully some of you that are struggling to get a vaccine appointment will be able to find one. A year ago, I did a Facebook Live right around now in this room talking about the first couple cases of coronavirus. And here we are a year later. Yes, there are a lot of coronavirus cases. Yes, we have had some sad, sad times over the last year. But look at this, 1.9 million Pennsylvanians have already had a vaccine, and a year ago we only found out about our first case. That's pretty amazing. All the efforts that were done last year to get this vaccine going, and here we are with this many people vaccinated. Yes, there's a lot of frustrations out there, but we are seeing people get the shots, and let's hope we're seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, because I really do think that we are. I hope you found this helpful. Again, I find it helpful for myself to sit here and kind of go through it all, and I go through all the data and break it all down. So I hope you do too. And I'll be back on the news later today, and we'll do this again next week. And most importantly, stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you later.